This is what Bohemian Rhapsody could have been. Just saying. So, Rocketman is a biopic centered around Elton John, who was played by Taron Egerton, who you might recognize from Kingsman, the Secret Service movie. I can honestly say, going into this movie, I was not that excited for it. I would even say that I was dreading it. I'm just really scared of it just being the next thing to make movies about rock stars, just so that the rock stars and bands could make money off of their music and kind of get a revitalization of their music. Even though their music is really good, I just don't think it's worth dragging through this really crappy movie just so that you can make a 2-hour long pitch for people to buy your music. Fortunately, I was wrong, I'll admit it. Rocketman is a really awesome movie. I thought it was so much fun and I really loved it. The first thing I liked is the music. Obviously this movie's about a really successful artist with great music, Elton John, and they just made it really stand out in this movie. It wasn't just they're performing his songs. They really were able to wrap up the visuals of the movie along with the music. They were able to incorporate Elton John's really loud style that he just wears these really crazy outfits, and that's just kind of the persona that he has, and it just kind of got accentuated more and more throughout his career. And they were also able to adapt that into the movie by adding in all these little musical numbers where they could explain pieces of the story and maybe do a little bit of a time lapse to show an era of his life. And I just thought that it just worked really well in the movie, one, because it fits Elton John's style, and also it was just really well executed. They put a lot of work into it and it didn't stand out. It fit the style of his music and it just fit his overall aesthetic really well. Also with the music, I was just blown away with how well Taron Egerton did singing Elton John's songs. Taron Egerton can really sing, and he sounds a lot like Elton John, and I'm way more of a fan of actors who are able to sing their parts. I know it's a lot to ask, an actor to sing like a really big artist like Johnny Cash by Joaquin Phoenix or Freddie Mercury, and it takes a lot to do it. But I just respect the actors so much more when they can do it, because it just feels like they're really fully embodying the person that they're playing, since this is the aspect of their lives that everyone has come to enjoy. Getting to know them and being familiar with them is cool too, throughout the movie, but when they're performing, it's that's what we know them for. And when the actors are able to sing, it makes it a much better experience. It just makes their performance on another level. So another thing that I was scared of in this movie, going into it, was that it was just going to be rinse and repeat the same story arcs that we've seen a million times in these musical biopics, where someone has untapped talent, then they run into an agent, and then they make it big, and then they get wrapped up in booze and all that, and they come to realization that they have big ego, then they're good again. And I was just scared going into it. But this movie, has some of that, but it also just is able to weave in all these emotional arcs super well and get you to know the characters. It doesn't just sell out for the fact that you like Elton John's music and you're just going to be entertained with anything. It's no, they actually went really hard on all of his relationships, and also going back to his childhood to find out why he is the way he is. They really weren't scared to go back into his childhood. At times you might think oh, this is a little bit too much, but really they're spending a lot of good emotional time forming the character so that you really get an idea of who he is. In particular, the amount of time that they're able to spend on Elton John and his relationship with his father. I thought that was the most emotionally impactful part of the movie, and I really liked that part of it. They were also able to fit in a really rich relationship with Elton John and his longtime best friend and songwriter that he met when he was, before he went big. And I thought that it was really cool that they kept that in the movie, because it seems like it's something they could have cut out, trimming the fat in your script to make sure you hit your plot points and make sure you get enough songs in. And I just thought it made the movie feel so much more authentic, keeping it in, made it feel like this is definitely something that happened. It just also sets up Elton's character arc for things that he struggles with later in the movie. I just thought it fit really well. All right, so I'm going to level with you guys. I am a Christian, so whenever I'm watching movies, I'm always filtering it through my Christian worldview, and that's where I kind of draw my morals from. and kind of get a lot of my analysis. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Elton John and how they portray his sexuality in this movie. So that's just kind of where I'm coming from. So Elton John's sexuality is a big part of this movie, and you see it from when he was young and his interactions with his parents, and then also just with folks in his industry and other relationships he has. And one of the saddest parts of this movie is how he kind of feels lonely because of it and out of place. And, also just like a lack of empathy from his parents. So yeah, personally, I don't necessarily agree with the homosexual lifestyle, but I'm not going to impose my views on people on how they need to live their lives. It's like, it's a free country. You can do whatever you want. I'm not going to stop you. But I just thought that how he interacts with his parents and the lack of love and empathy that his parents have for him was just like really heartbreaking. And I thought that it was a really real interpretation of that, and it didn't necessarily feel like it needed to be really preachy. So I think that they really portrayed this part of his life well. They were very honest with how his parents made him feel and the kind of brokenness he felt because of his loneliness and his sexuality, and just the kind of difficulties he had coming to terms with that part of himself, and then also having to figure out how to control it and not just, be so open that you get yourself into a lot of trouble. And I really enjoyed that. It was very authentic. So the only slight struggle with this movie I would say I had was just, its overall originality. It's kind of hard to keep making rock star biopic movies because their stories are very similar because they're in similar situations. It's just kind of hard because a lot of the times the movies don't get too deep with it though. They'll be like, oh, he's lonely, or he started to abandon his old loyal friends, or he started being mean to people. Don't be mean to people. This movie actually did get into the meat of the matter, got into some more deeper thoughts about why is this a problem, and how these characters struggle with depression or anxiety, or just feeling really, really alone. Overall, it is from a far distance kind of a similar story. But if you look into it, they did do it with a little bit more nuance and more thought in it. I'm going to give Rocketman a 9 out of 10. So moving forward, I really hope that Rocketman gets nominated for Oscars. I'm not the biggest fan of the Oscars. I obviously want movies who should get recognized to be recognized and to win awards. And I always have my favorites, but the Oscars are a crap show, and it's so political, it's disgusting. So anyways, I hope Rocketman gets all the credit that it deserves later on, but you guys should go out and watch it if you get a chance, and also watch more of my stuff. There's stuff below, I'm sure. If you click on my channel, you get to see all my new stuff. Follow me on Instagram, you'll get to see when I'm going to be posting new content, and subscribe, hit the notification button, comment below, let me know what you thought of this movie, and I'll see you guys next time.